Welcome to the Intro to Public Access webinar. My name is Channa Wald, and I will be your moderator today. Before we get started, please note that we will be answering questions throughout the webinar in the chat window located in the bottom left corner of your screen. Please feel free to chat your questions at any time. There will also be a question and answer at the conclusion of this webinar. The materials from today's webinar will be available online soon. As registrants, you will receive an email linking you directly to those materials. Your presenter today is Marlene Martineau. Marlene has worked at New Dawn Technologies for more than 7 years as the Marketing and Strategic Relations Manager. She is considered an industry expert on data integration, performance measures, and CJIS solutions. Marlene is actively involved in the justice industry and currently serves as the Forum for the Advancement of Court Technology Chair and the iJust Court Advisory Committee Chair. Let's get started. Marlene?
Thanks, Channa, for that introduction. Today we are just going to give a high-level introduction to public access and the different types of access points that are available today. At the end, I'll also provide some examples of different public access web portals that are making interaction with the courts and other government agencies, attorneys, the media, and the public much easier for the courts and those with whom they interact. So let's get started. Back in the days when budgets were flush, we had enough people to answer the phones and manage the lines at the window, but that dynamic has changed. I'm sure that all of you have experienced some massive budget cuts in the last 2 to 3 years. It seems that when you're looking at budgets of 30 to 40%, that makes a big difference in how things work within your court or your office. And personnel is always the most expensive expense on a balance sheet. So when you're looking at the easiest and fastest way to manage a budget and to bring a budget into line with the cuts that are required, people have a tendency to be cut first, and that's just reality and what we have to face. So when that happens, all of a sudden you have empty desks, you have not as many people to help you at the windows or answer the phones, and your workload just by sheer lack of not as many people increases. On top of that, we sometimes see an increase in the number of cases and inquiry requests that come into your court or office. So in addition to simply absorbing somebody else's work, now you need to also absorb the increased workload that is coming directly into your court or office. So you may have realized when the first cut hit that, yeah, my workload's increasing, everything's going to be a little bit bigger and harder, and I'm going to be required to do a little bit more. But I can get through this. We'll look at budgets next year. Next year will be great. Maybe we can bring some more people back on board, and things will get back to normal, right? That might have been what you thought about. The problem that we have is then you had a second and a third and maybe even a fourth, sometimes a fifth wave of cuts that hit. You were left with more work to do, fewer people to get it done, and again, caseloads, inquiries from public and other people that you work with increased sometimes exponentially. So now you're looking at a scenario where it is impossible to get everything done the way it was before. Things have to change. There is no way, there's just not enough time in the day to answer all the inquiries, answer the phone, and talk to the people at the window that need to be done. So one of the best ways to handle this increased workflow is to provide a way for people both inside and outside your office to access information relevant to their needs without the need for human interaction. So how can you provide that information for the people that are currently calling in or walking up to your window to ask a question, to do an action? How can you provide that same information and that same ability to perform that action without you physically having to do that for them? And that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about web portals and other access points. It's not like access points like the phone, the internet, and kiosks are a new thing. They've been around for a long time. Um, think ATMs, think automated phone menus for your insurance company, think online bill pay. We have seen these types of access points for a long, long time. However, as these comics suggest, your idea of these access points or your experience with these access points may not be the most positive. My favorite comment on this slide is, your call is important to us. Please stay on the line until your call is no longer important to you. How many times have you been on a phone and saying, your call is important to us, your estimated wait time is 20 minutes. Please hold, your call is important to us. So those experiences do not really sit well with us. We think we don't want to offer an automated phone message, automated phone system. It's going to decrease the public perception of us. It's going to make things a little bit more difficult. So I'd rather have people just call in and I can get them their information and we can have a good experience. But that a good experience is very important when we're looking and talking about different access points, but it's just impossible. It really is impossible for you to answer every single phone call and still get everything else done that you need. So what's different now is the way phone messaging, kiosks, web portals, the way these types of systems actually interact with you. If you are looking at a good system, you rarely have to go through a menu or go through several web pages. You really are presented with the information that you need right now in a way that helps you get your inquiry answered and get on with what you need to do, requiring no human interaction. And that's what we want to focus on today. So the kiosks are a perfect example of this change. They have evolved from a simple ATM with a lot of buttons. You had to follow all the prompts. Everything was, handhold, push the buttons, enter your code. Don't forget your card. Don't forget your money. Don't forget your receipt. Simple ATM machines, no interaction. These were a great start and helped people get money when they needed to, however they needed to. Usually the beginning ATMs were just a way for us to get money, withdraw money, or check a balance, right? Now ATMs, the banking ATMs allow you to make deposits and interact in other ways. They definitely have evolved. ATMs went from those simple little let's withdraw money or check our balance to full screen touch displays where these are really good for, say, museums or in the lobby to provide information. I saw a big resort in where the resort itself is pretty much a miniature city, and so to find where you need to go is pretty difficult. Instead of having people stationed throughout the resort to answer where you needed to go, they had these interactive displays that had a map, or you could do a quick search, or you could say, I'm here and I want to go here, tell me how to get there. And the screens were completely interactive and were very, very helpful in answering those inquiries without requiring somebody to actually be there. And they received really high reviews when it was exit surveys of the people that stayed at the resort saying, hey, how did you like the touch screens? Were you able to get where you needed to go, get the information you needed? They were rated really highly and saying these were great. I get the information I needed. I didn't have to hunt somebody down. And it really increased the value of their experience. But as you may have seen, kiosks don't stop there. So now we have these full miniature merchandising shops, retail centers that are now kiosks as well. You can see them all over in airports. You can buy anything from headphones to iPads to anything just directly from these kiosks, and they do not require any interaction at all. And it's been kind of an interesting evolution to see where the kiosks are going and I think it will continue to be interesting to see where they go in the future. So why are different access points important? First, let's take a look at the way people want to or may be able to interact with you. So I've just listed 6 main ones. I'm sure I've forgotten 1 or 2, but these 6 are really the most prevalent right now. The best ways that we can interact with people. It has you in the middle, wherever you are, if you're in a court, if you're at a probation office, if you're in a law enforcement scenario of some type. If you're out in the field, you are here. Or, if you're just the general public, you want to interact with the person in the middle. So we're going to talk about, we have web portals, which I'm sure all of you have seen a web portal. You've clicked on somebody's website and tried to interact with them in some way. Phone menus, as I mentioned before, phone menus in the past are pretty convoluted and you must wait 20 minutes to talk to somebody. But we're going to talk a little bit about how phone menus have changed. A new, relatively new access point is texting. And I don't know if you've really thought about being able to text information or have somebody text information in and having that text answered automatically with relevant information, but it's becoming more and more important, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as to why that's important. Mobile devices, you know that mobile devices are increasing, and what they're doing is becoming more and more important. On my way to work this morning, I was listening to the morning news, and it was talking about how the theft of smartphones has increased significantly over the last couple of years. And the reason why is just 2 years ago, only 20% of the cell phone providers used a smartphone, 20%. As of last year, the ending of last year, 50% of the cell phone providers are using a smartphone. And these smartphones are anywhere from $300 to $400 to $500. I think, when we also talk about mobile devices, we're talking about the influx of tablet devices that are always connected to the internet as well. And so we're really seeing a huge increase in mobile devices. People want to be able to interact that way. That's a very important mobile access point. There's a misconception that it's very, very easy for you to take your web portal and port it into a mobile device. And that if you've ever been on a phone or a smartphone or a small tablet and you've tried to use someone's main website, you know that that is not the case. So looking at mobile devices is definitely something that you have to think about. Kiosks, we mentioned before. How will you use your kiosks? There are so many different options today. And of course, we still have the office menu, the office window, and the other types of access points that we are using today. So why is it important to offer so many different options? Well, not everyone is the same. You may have one person that feels like they need to come to the office window in order to get what they need done, and you have someone else that just wants to text or it has a couple of minutes during their lunch break at work and wants to take care of a traffic ticket and will hit your web portal. So the person sitting, you know that everyone wants to interact a little bit differently. Some people like face-to-face, some people like to text. Offering all the different options actually helps you reach more people. And if you set them up correctly, it actually is less overhead than you simply managing an office window and managing phone calls. So you have to be careful of that to make sure that they're set up correctly, or the overhead and the management will actually bury you a little bit too. What makes each one of these access points good, and when are they not worth the money? I talked about that a little bit. Making sure that they're set up correctly is very important, or you actually spend more time managing them than you currently are, answering the phones and managing people at your window. So people want to get, it's important to remember, people want to get their information as quickly as possible. We don't want to wade through layers of phone tree options or layers of web page searching for what we need to know. We want to know right now, when is my court date? How much do I owe for my ticket? How do I file an appeal? How do I do something? And that's, usually I have a single mind when I go to a website or I'm looking at an access point. I want to find out a single bit of information. Just give me that answer and let me get on with my life. We're really, really busy people and we have things to do. So give me that information. Don't take 20 or 30 minutes to give me the information that should take 1 or 2. And let's move forward. What makes each access point good or bad is different for each one. So let's look at them a little separately. Starting with the window. Now, all of us have seen a window in where you can interact with people, and it would be nice if there was only one person there and you could answer their questions and it was stressed. But how many times a week do you see a line wrap around the hall, wrap around those little, theater barriers, wrap around your building? As people try to interact with you and as you try to answer these questions, there's just not enough time to answer all of them individually. And possibly, without additional services or additional help. So it's really difficult to manage a window when there's a big line. What would be interesting is in that picture at the bottom with the line that's wrapping around the building. If you could pull that building and say, what do you need to do? Do you need to make a payment? Do you just need to check in? Do you need to just enter a non-guilty plea? What exactly do you need to do? It would be interesting to find out how many of those would be better served by a different access point and how that would affect your line. I don't have an answer for that. I'm not sure anyone would have an answer for that unless they actually talk to the people. But I'm positive that there are some people in that line that if they had a different way to interact, they would not be there. And that would shorten the line and make everybody's life a lot easier. So what are the pros for a window? You get to see people and you get to make a connection with the people that you serve. Getting to see people is also a con. It's expensive and there are security concerns. So, there's give and take in each one of these access points, but the window really is, the pro and the con is that people are standing in front of you requesting some help in some form. And how you manage that and how you move forward is different for each one of us, but we still have to face the fact that there's a line of people that we work. So if we're trying to get rid of or trying to decrease the number of people at the window, let's look at some other options. So here's a phone tree, right? Not really a phone tree, it's just a regular tree. But if you've been through some of the old phone systems, some of the ones that you would expect, you think that the options through that phone tree are just as complex and convoluted and windy as the actual branches on this tree. And it gets so frustrating that you say, I just can't handle it anymore. I don't understand all these options. I'm just going to press 0 and wait for an attendant. I need to talk to a person, right? Then you get set into the phone queue, which says, your call is important to us. We expect somebody to get on in 20 to 30 minutes. 5 to 10 if you're lucky, which usually turns into a little bit more than that. So how do we get around using a phone tree that doesn't take 30 minutes but takes 2 to 3 minutes? The good news is that today's automated phone menus really do allow you to get the information that you need faster. Instead of dialing a number and waiting and saying, press 1 for this, press 5 for that, press this, enter that, okay, do this, and then all of that information doesn't work. You end up talking to a representative. You have to give all of that information over again. So what happens is these new phone systems say, enter some type of identifying information. Don't press 1, don't press 5, don't do this, don't do that. Just give me some identifying information, whether it's a social security number, a ticket number, a case number, whatever it is that you have that allows me to quickly identify who you are and what you want to talk about. And then instead of saying, press 1 for this, press 1 for that, they come back and they say, your court date is, you owe this much money, whatever it is, that relevant information on what you need to do. And then they'll start asking the questions. Do you want to pay for this ticket right now? Yes. Do you want to enter a non-guilty plea? Yes. Do you want to decrease your fine by signing up for defensive driving? You know, whatever those options are. And they only offer the options that are relevant to that specific item or that case or whatever it is that the person is calling for. If they're just calling for a court date, it's not going to take you through payment information unless you want to go through payment information. If they're just talking about, if they do want payment information, if defensive driving is an option, they'll offer it. If it isn't, they won't. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to really look at the new phone trees that allows me to say, I'm going to get the information that I need in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to be pleased with the results, and I'm going to get on with my life. And I'm not going to sit on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes. So it's really interesting to see the evolution of these phone trees and how they really are delivering the important information. What's really important about the phones is looking at, again, setting it up correctly so that it doesn't take a lot of management and so it is possible to get through, get the answers that I need and leave. By reducing the amount of time the caller spends on the call, you can answer more phone calls. By reducing the number of callers who give up and dial 0 for an attendant, you're providing relevant information to more people throughout the day. And the number of requests you have to answer over the phone every day ultimately decreases, allowing you to really talk to the people who really sincerely need some kind of human interaction to get the information that they need, or and to be able to really do what it is that they need to do. The next one is the kiosk, and I've talked about the kiosks before. This picture is just kind of a line of kiosks, and I thought it was interesting how there are so many different kiosks available right now. We're familiar with the Redbox and renting movies $1 a day. I don't know if you're familiar with the Coinstar. We have a jar. I have several jars actually of change on the top of my fridge. When they fill up to a certain level, I always find a Coinstar kiosk that you just literally dump in the change and it prints out a ticket that says you have this much money. Take that to a register, the service desk of the store that you're in, and you get cash back instead of doing all the counting and filling of the paper roll, taking it to the bank, all of that kind of stuff. Simple, easy, in, out. And as you know, you have your regular ones like your ATMs for your banking, information. And what's really interesting is courts and probation agencies are really starting to use kiosks to allow check-ins, to allow information in different languages, to allow payments to be made, all of these different options for kiosks that we've never had before. And it's really interesting to watch that evolution and see how things are being allowed and offered up to help people get out of a line and get the information that they need to. The offering of the information in different languages is really interesting because especially when you're talking about just general court information, directions to which courtroom you need to be to, those types of things, that really cuts down on the number, the hours that you have to hire interpreters to be available to you. We're also seeing kiosks being used for general case information, making payments, a lot of those same things that we have been talking about, but allowing them to be translated and available in different languages as well. So that really does help some of those burdens for interpretation requirements that we've been seeing that have been increasing throughout the last couple of years. So The next one is the World Wide Web, right? The Internet, with the Internet, possibilities are limitless. If everyone has access to a computer. So there's still a big debate going on as to whether websites are the ultimate option for accessibility, because not everyone has a computer, not everyone has access to the Internet in their home. So the argument is, well, there is access in public libraries and other places, just like public libraries. You can go and do your work there. But what if I can't leave? What if I'm homebound? What if what I'm working on is really private in nature and I don't want to work on it in a public setting like a library? So there are still some very, very concerning access questions and concerns when you're talking about a public portal on the internet. However, the benefits far outweigh the problems that you may have with those individuals. So offering a kiosk, this is another way to offer those types of kiosks in more of a private setting, in your court, in your office, for those that can't access it somewhere else. But for the most part, the majority of us do have a computer at home, sometimes multiple computers. We do have internet access, and we like to work online. And so public web portals is really a great option. The other thing that we're starting to look at is digital natives are just beginning to reach adulthood. So digital natives is that generation between the ages of right now about 12 to 13 to about 20 to 21. So this is the age of children who have grown up with technology. The majority of them have always had a computer in their home or access to a computer at school or in a public library or some other setting. They received cell phones at much younger ages. I was, in my late 20s before I received my first cell phone. My two teenage children received their first cell phone at the age of 12. So they've had access to cell phones. They've had access to, they expect their gaming systems are connected to the internet, and they can go on and they can game with other people, or they can game in kind of a party mode. They have this, everything that they have has been technology based. They've had access to it, and because of that, they expect everything to be technology based. And so as this generation reaches adulthood and starts interacting with us, offering access points that make sense to them is very important. They want to and expect to interact digitally. They don't want to wait in line in a library. They want to interact when and where it's most convenient for them. Is a web portal the best answer for them? It depends on the web portal. But when you start talking about the digital natives, you're actually going to start talking more about mobile devices and texting, which is what I'm going to talk about next. So, and mobile devices is not even just limited to the digital natives. I prefer to work on my smartphone and my tablet than I do on my computer, depending on what it is. If I have a lot of typing to do or something like that, I'd rather be on my computer. But if I'm just looking something up, if I just want to do a quick, balance of my credit card, check a quick email, send all of this information, I'd rather do that on my mobile devices. So we are definitely a country that loves instant gratification, and our mobile devices allow us this gratification. How many times have you been at a dinner party, in some type of a group setting, sitting around a table just talking to people, where someone asks a question that no one can answer? And it used to be, oh, well, you'd make jokes about it, the question would be lost. Now it seems that the response to that type of situation is everyone pulls out their mobile device, right? Not everyone, but at least one person will pull out a mobile device to answer the question, immediately answer that question. We love instant gratification. We want to know the answers right now, and we're starting to want to know the answers about more trivial information because it's so readily available. So what I think is the best is in those situations when multiple mobile devices come out, it sometimes turns into a race to see who can answer the question the fastest and the best with the best answer. And so then it becomes a race and a competition between the mobile devices that you're using to see who really is the best. Is it this mobile carrier better than that mobile carrier, this device, 3G versus 4G, on and on and on. So then you get into those other types of conversations. But mobile devices really are everywhere. As I mentioned before, smartphones currently are 50% of all cell phone subscribers. So, and smartphones are what you use to interact. And we know that their use is growing just in the past 2 years. It's gone from 20% to 50% of all subscribers using a smartphone. I expect that to go up even more. And the use of tablets is really increasing as well. And so I can see that going up. I'm starting to see children as young as 4 or 5 years old with not only using a tablet, but owning their own tablet. And it's interesting to see how that dynamic is changing where they might not have, you don't have to carry around laptops anymore, you don't carry around those portable DVD players, everything's interactive, everything is, I want to be able to instantly get that information that I need to. Again, taking that back to an access point, it's really difficult to just take your website and port it to a mobile device. The screens are too small, the buttons can be too small, those links are hard. Really looking at how do we make our information accessible, allow people to access our sites, our mobile site through a device, get in, get the information that they need to do, perform the action that they need to in a way. You need to really think about how that looks and how easy it's going to be for them to do. So this is my favorite. I'd rather be texting. I have 2 teenagers. Once on a long road trip, I discovered that they were texting each other in the back seat so that they could talk, and I wouldn't know what they were talking about. And I gave them a hard time, but they were just like, I was like, well, whatever happened to whispering? They're like, Mom, and they rolled their eyes. You get that little, that response several times. My daughter won't answer the phone when I call, but I'll call and she won't answer the phone, and so I'll send a text, but I get an answer right back. So I asked her once why you can't, why you don't answer the phone. And she goes, I just don't feel like I get the interaction that I want to talking to somebody on the phone. But if I could video chat, I would do that over texting. It was really interesting to have that conversation about how she wanted to interact. But texting is really important, and it's becoming more and more prevalent as these digital natives move into the adulthood. This is the generation of texting. This is the generation of Facebook. This is the generation of, I'd rather live in front of my computer in this virtual world than go out and live in a real world. And we're seeing a little bit of that shift happen. However, in the last little while, I've also seen a shift of people, a big push to get people out into the real world, and that is happening as well. So it's interesting to see how the pendulum swings back and forth, but we will never get rid of texting. And just like when you start talking about a phone tree, texting can be pretty convoluted if you want it to be, but it actually, in a way, is pretty easy. And because you text your case number, your ticket number, whatever it is that you have, to the texting phone, to the phone number, and it immediately pulls back information that you want, and you interact through text messages. It's amazing to see what can happen with these new systems that allow the text messaging, and it's great to see people interacting in a way that is comfortable with them, comfortable for them. Because teenagers, even late teenagers, early adults, interacting with the court system can be very frightening for them. This may be the first time that they have to, but texting is easy and comfortable, and so maybe that's a good way to reach out to them. What I love about texting as well is that if I'm making a phone call, like if I have 20 minutes, I'm sitting on a bus, sitting in a taxi, doing whatever it is that I'm doing, and I have this parking ticket that I need to take care of, texting that information keeps that information private to me, and I don't have to get on the phone call, and people around me don't know what it is that I'm doing, which is really nice. It kind of keeps that anonymity when I'm working on some of those things. So this is another important, really important public access point that you should not dismiss and you should really look at. So let's take a few minutes and talk about what's working well. So for this section, I'm going to focus on web portals because, and not phones or texting or kiosks, because it's really easy to demonstrate what's good in a web portal. So please don't think that because I'm highlighting web portals that they are any more important to some of these other access points. Like I mentioned before, having the different options available help you reach out to more people because the way that everybody likes to interact a little bit different. So let's talk a little bit about one. This one is the City of Milwaukee Municipal Court. It's very straightforward. It focuses on helping you get something done. So you can see, you can search by case number, search by citation number, and if you, once you get those up, you can make a payment, get your case information, and you can see down at the bottom, you can even submit a non-guilty plea. Very straightforward. 3 basic actions that you can do. If you want more information about the municipal court, that is in the menu off to the side. You can do that, but front and center is, let's help you work on what it is that we know that you want to get done. They've identified these options, the reason most people visit their site, and they've offered those up front and center. There's no question that's what they want to help you. They want to help you do that information and complete these actions and do this information query as quickly as possible. Another really good one is the Arizona Judicial Branch. So they have, you can see across the bottom, great big buttons, e-filing, case search, payment options, and defensive driving school information, right there across the bottom. The other thing I really like about this web portal is there's that little tab that says, how do I do something? And they've identified these 6 questions that are their most common questions, and they're saying, how do I find a defensive driving school? File a complaint against a judge. Just right there. Click on it, you're going to get the information immediately the way that you want. Arizona is a 100% mandatory e-filing state. So having that e-filing at the bottom is very important. Allows people that come to quickly move into that section and get done what they need to be done. So when you're talking about developing access points, you need to consider the actions and the information of the people that are working with you or that will be coming to you. What do they want most often? What are the questions that they ask? What are the actions that they want to do? And before you even talk about, all these different access points, you can start gathering that information just strictly from the people that come to your window and call this, are asking these questions on the phone, and also you can set up analytics on your existing website to see what types of actions that they want to do. It's very important to find that core information. What do they want to accomplish? What information do they want to do? And then build out from there. And those most common, put them front and center, just like these couple of web portals that we've looked at. So I realize that not all courts can build something this focused. So let's take a look at a portal published by the 19th Judicial Circuit Court of Lake County, Illinois. So again, they have their most common actions front and center. Here's your self-help legal center, here's your court forms, and here's some current juror information. In addition to that, they also have some tabs at the front that help you focus. I'm an attorney, I'm a juror, I'm an educator, I'm a media. And so if I am a media person, I'm going to click on the media, and I'm going to get access to information that is very important to the media, but not important to jurors. Jurors don't care about some of those media inquiries. They want completely different information. So if I'm a juror, I'm going to go and I'm going to click on that tab that's for the jurors and focus and get information that's directly relevant to me. It is a little bit deeper, but there's a lot more information available, and it still helps me focus to say, I'm still going to get the information that I need as fast as I can. All of these websites are also promoting public perception, a positive public perception through offering additional information about who they are, what they do, and what they want to accomplish. And I think that that's also very important when you start looking at your different options for public access. So those are just a few examples of web portals that fit their audience well. And as I mentioned before, access points are not limited to web portals, but can and should include options like phone, texting, mobile devices, and kiosks. In the coming months, we'll be talking more in depth about some of these different access points and how you can use them in your court or agency to provide more valuable information in a more efficient way. How do you help the people get in, ask the questions that they need to, get the information, and perform the actions that they want to? We'll also be talking to several courts and agencies across the country that are using these different access points successfully. So I hope you come back and so you can hear more about their stories. Thank you for joining us today, and back to you, Jana.
Thank you, Marlene. If you have any additional questions, please enter them in the chat window now. That concludes our webinar. If you would like additional information about our public access solutions or how these solutions could assist your court or agency, please contact us at sales@newdawn.com. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, today's materials will be available online shortly. Watch your email for direct access. Thank you for attending. We hope to see you at next month's webinar about electronic discovery on May 10th. Registration details will be available soon. Have a good afternoon.